Yes.
SAG-AFTRA as well.
Brilliant. Charlie Kaufman stripping in solidarity with the striking workers. You heard it here first. So just tell us what the most relevant aspects of the strikes are for you.
Well, I mean, I guess the thing that I'm most passionate about is the issue of AI. I think it's a very extraordinarily dangerous, slippery slope. And I think once it's gone down, there's no return. It's the end of creativity for human beings. It's what it's going to lead to. And it's handing it over to non-sentient, non-feeling, non-rebellious entity. I feel like we're sort of already doing it, but I think that's the next level of doing it, which is to sort of not have any ability to protest what it is that we're being fed, because there's no human being involved in it, and the end goal is always profits.
Your screenwriting style is what many would term inimitable. And very much would seem like exactly the type of screenplay that an AI would not be able to generate.
I think an AI might be able to do what I do. It's not motivated by the same things that I am or any other human being is, which is that you have experiences, you have feelings, you have anxiety, you have love. If we stop creating ourselves, if we stop doing that, then we're giving up something, aside from what happens to the industry or what happens to movies, we're giving up something that's primal, that's essential, that's been part of human experience and necessary to human experience as long as there have been humans. And I think it needs to be protected. And the business is not going to do it. And if the business can do without people, then there's not a chance that they'll go to people, because it's cheaper for them, and that's all they care about.
There are obviously other aspects involved in the strike, for example, streaming rights and pay, basically. Is there anything in particular you can share with us about that, your insights into that, those areas?
What the writers are asking is very little. It's 0.026% of revenues.
Yeah. And when you
I think it's $343 million a year.
Is the total increase?
If they got everything that they wanted, that would be the damage for the studios.
Wow.
Obviously, many of these people make close to that individually, and it's disgusting because they don't do anything. Well, they do damage is what they do. They do damage to the art form, and by doing that, they do damage to humanity. And if everything is about the bottom line for them and saving money, then there's nothing left to the art form.
One of the things I thought that was really interesting in your masterclass, you were talking about the experience of working with Netflix on I'm Thinking of Ending Things, your fantastic film, with Jessie Buckley and Jesse Plemons. And a huge favorite film of mine. I really love it.
Oh, thank you.
Almost like, I suppose, semi-humorously in the masterclass, you were mentioning how you were kind of glad that you didn't get any feedback on the metrics of how successful that film was, of how many people watched it.
If you open a movie in the theater, you know exactly how much it's made, and you know exactly how long it remains in the theater, and everybody knows. And then you end up getting work or not getting work based on the performance of the film, and this was not that. And it didn't cost them any money. It cost them some, but it cost them very little. I think like a sixth of Dave Chappelle's salary for his hour-and-a-half special, or whatever. However long
it's a good way to calculate things in terms of Dave Chappelle's salary.
Well, because you realize when you look at it that way that what their priorities are. He's valuable to them because he's going to bring this massive audience, supposedly, and things that are not going to bring a massive audience are not valuable. It's very clear.
During your masterclass, we got to see your new short film, Jackals and Fireflies, which is a collaboration with the poet Ava H.D., who also wrote the poem that Jessie Buckley recites in I'm Thinking of Ending Things. The short film is lovely, but it feels to me very much not necessarily in the vernacular that we have come to expect from a Charlie Kaufman film.
Yeah, well, it's her poem, so it's not my writing. I heard the poem. She did an audio recording of it, and I really liked it, and I thought it would be a good movie, and then we were able to find some financing from Samsung. We shot it on one of their phones, and they gave us some money to do it, left us alone. I'm interested in trying to do different things. This seemed like something I didn't know how to do. I like the idea of shooting in a kind of improvisational way on the streets of New York, and that was new to me. And the film is a mixture of, actual people on the street and people we hire to perform certain parts in the film. And that was what drew me. I mean, I love the poem, but I love the idea of trying to do something I hadn't done before, I didn't know how to do.
I personally want to ask, because as an insufferably narcissistic film critic myself, your novel, And Kind, what was it that made you decide to create your central character being an insufferably narcissistic film critic?
One of the things that I feel like with critics that I feel like is not part of their critique is that they are people, they have bad moods, they have prejudices, but there's this sort of like idea that this opinion, this assessment comes from some sort of objective place. I wanted to address that, and I also wanted to address the fact that my assessment of them comes from a non-objective place, which is why I put myself in the book as someone who's being attacked, but also somebody who wrote this book and is trying to control and destroy the character of the critic. I wanted to say that this isn't like some neutral assessment of a person or a field of endeavor. I actually really didn't want to put myself in to the book because of that, because I didn't want to be like, okay, this is the guy who puts himself in shit. And I did get that as a response, but I really needed this. I did it anyway because I really needed this idea that I just told you, which is I needed the idea that I'm an asshole, and it's addressed towards this character. Like somebody once, maybe more than once, maybe a million times, people have said, well, Charlie Kaufman only knows how to write about himself, because of adaptation, but because they think that I'm reflected in the characters that I write. And, you could say that, yes, I'm kind of like Craig in Being John Malkovich, probably in some ways. But my point in response to this is that I also write all the other characters,
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.